This is RF from Country Lunch on Wolf 91.5 FM. Let's get back to part two of our January 5th interview with Paleo Mountain Man and Bud Cat 7. Have you had any paranormal experiences in some of the places and findings that you've been? May I ask that question?
Sure.
Okay, I asked it.
Yes.
Here we go. Go
I
ahead.
can't. I can't say that I had any particular experiences among the stone walls, other than just feeling a great deal of peace and tranquility among them. As I said, I think I said in the last show that we did that I just felt the whole, experience calm and peacefulness there. I never was creeped out in any way or anything like that. But I did have, while I was up there in Connecticut, I did see a UFO, and that freaked me out. But but I wasn't among the stone walls when that happened. But I did see a UFO. But and I don't even want to talk about that right now. But I don't. There's a channel I think on YouTube that's like Creepy New England or something like that. So on that channel, Creepy New England, I think they actually do everybody a disservice because they're among the stone walls and constructed in New England, and they're suggesting this whole creepy element to it or whatever. So I don't know. Maybe those people feel creeped out over there, but I didn't. I did not experience that at all. I just had all good, positive, wonderful experiences among the stone walls over there, and I felt quite comfortable and at home living among them when I lived in the forest up there in the Green Mountains, and I didn't feel any sort of negativity at all.
I think you came up with something important, though. If you feel good, if it makes you feel good, that can affect your whole health and personality and everything in your life.
And do you think that the white crystal might have something to do with that? Well,
if you want to talk about mystical experiences, that's what I would say. When I went to that mountain, I was suffering from grand mal seizures terribly, to where I lost my life several times from seizures, where I'd have 7 or 8 in a row and I wouldn't breathe for 9 or 10 minutes.
I remember you telling me about that.
I was on every drug in the world, but now I'm on 0 drugs and I have 0 seizures. And I attribute it to the voices in the stones, which is mystical. If you listen to the stones, they'll speak to you and give you what you need. And what you need is different than what I need, but they'll give you that. And what you may have needed was feeling a little peace and knowing that, well, maybe they weren't a terrible people that lived up there. Maybe they had a spiritual nature to them. Maybe they were
I think so.
using the stone in that way.
I think all the stories about them being these sort of bloodthirsty savages, I think that's a bunch
Wasn't
of
true.
nonsense.
No, they were artists and poets and thinkers and astronomers.
Highly intelligent people. They're highly intelligent people.
They were highly intelligent. They were.
They have their wife, they have their children, how could you have those things and not have any sort of empathy towards anything?
And they could dress. They like to dress up.
Right.
They like to wear all kinds of outrageous things, and they did.
They did.
And they were handsome, beautiful, thinking, intelligent beings who inhabited this area, and they up and disappeared. Why, I don't know, and when, I don't know, but they left some beautiful and intricate carvings of themselves and of the things they thought were precious to them in quartz that doesn't disappear. It stays where you put it. And it just happens they did a lot of that up here, which is why I think it was sacred to them and very, very special. The quartz was.
I recall Verrazano's accounts of seeing the Indians here for the first time on Long Island, and when he saw them, first of all, he noted that they were bigger. First of all, that they were bigger, and number two, he said that they were beautiful. So he said they were beautiful people. Then he described what they were wearing, their dress, and maybe Liberace would have one up on them or something like that. But
I don't think
they
so.
were just fantastically dressed with necklaces of
Huge
gems,
headdresses.
Metal.
What we get from that is that they were very talented artists and thinkers.
Very.
They thought of beauty and they created it in stone. How hard is it to create anything in a piece of quartz? And they created beauty out of it. And I think it was spiritual to them. It healed them. It was part of their nature. And they were probably very popular and famous for it in the area because this site up here is such a sacred site. It's healed me. Just being there has healed me. It's healed my life. And that's just a personal view of being there. But in the future, the site will still be there and people will come through. And every stone that I've found is still there. I mean, I intend to just put it back in the earth, most of it. I think it belongs there.
I have a similar story because in a way, I was going through a lot of turmoil in my life at the time that I started visiting the stone wall. So from like start to finish through this terrible thing that I went through in my life, I was looking at the stone walls, and as I said, at the end of that, I really did my research at Mallory, and just going there and being there among the stones, I knew that's where I needed to be. And that's really when we first started talking, right, Jimmy? Just like right before that, right before I got to Mallory. And, once I got there and spent a few months there, living there, really did a lot of good for me personally in my personal life. So, in a way, it's a similar story, So right there, you have the evidence of the power of the stone walls, at first-hand accounts, right?
And that's why these people left language in the walls and in everything they did. They had the language, they had the technology, they had the spirit, they had the intelligence, they had the beauty in their minds and their heart and their souls. They weren't beasts, they weren't savages, they were intelligent artists, people, beings that were living their lives up here. I can't imagine what the countryside looked like with these people here because it must have been beautiful with their geoforming of the land and their walls. And the beauty of the wall right now, as old as it is beautiful, the way it's put together. And if you tap on it with your fingernail, you can hear the wall ring still. You can tap on a certain stone in the wall with your fingernail, and it just magnifies that sound over and over and over and over again.
There's definitely the acoustic qualities of the stone.
Acoustically built, yeah.
No doubt, no doubt.
It's an amazing construction, and you and I, walking through the woods, could see it in a half a second because we're familiar with it. If you're looking for farmers' walls, that's all you'll see. You'll walk right past them. But
Absolutely.
Once you know what these walls look like, then you start wondering, well, why did they build them so well and acoustically? And there's some energy going through these ridges and all this quartz, and maybe it made people feel better, and maybe they came here to get healing or to talk with their higher powers and things like that. But it was definitely part of their culture.
I think your area there, right where you're at, and I believe the Mallory area were definitely the spiritual centers of this particular, those particular regions. And, it's indicated by the proliferation of all the different elements seem to be in one area. Now, we went outside that area. We went to Mount Ephraim. We went to several other areas in Vermont there, and they were far different. They weren't the same thing. They weren't like the same thing as your area there, or let's say Mallory. And we didn't find a lot of white stone, right? When we were up on Mount Ephraim, did we see any white stone there? Not a lot of it.
There wasn't much up there, no. But the walls were similar. They were built the same.
Oh, they were definitely similar, but it didn't seem to contain much white stone over there. So it seems like the white stone is for specific use in specific areas only.
Yeah,
And
and
I think
it's a
also,
very powerful thing because just the way the boulders sit, they could have carved them all up long ago, but there's an outcrop of boulders right on top of the mountain that's it looks like a cairn of some kind, but they could have chopped them up and taken that stone a long time ago, but it was sacred to them. They didn't. The whole mountain was sacred, and I think every stone they took out of it was sacred, which is why they put so much effort into making beautiful images in them. And if you were traveling down the Connecticut River, you'd carry your stone with you, one of the smaller ones. The bigger ones you'd leave up here, which is why there's so many of them. You might take the small stone with you, but you'd leave the bigger ones. And they carved really big stones, 30-pound stones, that you would have to just leave up here on the mountain. So I think people came and visited the stones rather than took them with them. They maybe carved
absolutely.
stones
And
when they were up here and they left them, things like that. There were rituals going on. Like temples in India, people still frequent to this day and leave offerings and do the same things they did for thousands of years. That's what happened up here, I believe. That's what I
and they
see
left
anyway.
the stone. That was something that we talked about many times. A lot of people, when they do videos, a lot of the researchers and other people looking at stone walls will often refer to these boulders that have stones placed on top of them. And Jimmy came to the conclusion, or at least postulated that perhaps one of the rituals in these areas where you find these things was that as you pass the stone, one of these large boulders, to leave a stone on top of there, or certain people would have to do
And
that, or it's part of their culture, part of their religious worship.
and a visual, as you know, if you're walking through the woods, your eye will pick up that white stone from quite a way, and you'll walk towards it, and then you'll pick up the next one, and you'll pick up the next one. Sometimes it's a round piece of granite in the ground where a path will split, and you'll get to that round piece of granite, and you'll know there's a split in the path, and you find which way you're going. And the white stone will lead you places. There's marker stones in the woods that lead to standing stones that lead to the walls that are white, like white marker stones. And if you learned how to read the woods back then, you could find your way to these places. And I think that's what they did. And every once in a while, you'd get to a big cairn in the woods, like a split stone cairn that took a lot of time to create. And once you got there, maybe you know your journey is almost through. And then you get to the giant standing stones, and you get to the walls, and now you're there. And maybe you went there once in your life. Maybe you went there every year. People lived there. A lot of people lived there, but I think a lot of people went through there. And
You can find more information on walls by going to Paleo Mountain Man on YouTube or Budcat7 on YouTube.